Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Want to know what the cost of housing has to do with your retirement? Everything.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Besides the enormous amount of taxes you'll owe on the money inside your 401k plan, as well as the money annually devoted to healthcare costs, it might surprise you to learn that of all the expenses one will incur in retirement, the amount of money spent on housing could possibly be the biggest of them all. Problem is, with all of the financial world consumed with the topic of where savers should invest their money and also where they're trying to grow their 401k, very few advisors spend time assisting clients with this most important of decisions, where you will call home in retirement and at what cost. So why would such an important topic of housing in retirement be avoided by so many advisors? Well, first of all, there's no money in it for them, and second of all, my experience is that most advisors in the financial world know very little about this subject and how to accurately count the cost associated with housing. Oh, sure, they'll gladly roll over your 401k into some annuities and investments, but take the time to figure out how to save money on your housing? You can forget that. So let's think about all of the housing options available for savers nowadays and how to decide where to live with the remaining years of your life. For instance, is it best to stay put in the current home you were raised in and your kids were raised in? Maybe that same home that is free from debt, even though you know it's too big and too much to maintain. And assuming your home is too much to handle, should you downsize to a smaller home? And if so, where and at what cost? Here's another one. Should you move to a cheaper area, maybe an area that's even safer than your current home? Or assuming the kids live far away, do you pick up stakes and move near them? Then there's the option of the low maintenance patio homes that are very popular. They're really cool since someone else is taking care of everything, but you got to fork over a lot of money each month for that luxury. And what about the issue of debt on your current home? Do you draw money out of your tax-infested 401k or take money over at the bank earning 0.5% and pay it off then? Or with interest rates at all-time lows, do you refinance the darn thing and invest the difference in one of those growth mutual funds that financial entertainer on the radio is always talking about? And finally, here's another option. I'm seeing more and more savers consider, guess what? Renting versus owning. Well, if that's you, or maybe you're the adult child whose parents are struggling with where to spend the remaining years of their retirement, then today's show is for you. We're going to be talking about the cost of housing in retirement. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement, and yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement housing decision-making specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we get started, let me introduce the producer of our show, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with our technical director, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, there you are, getting ready to retire. Maybe you've already retired for years, or possibly you've got a parent who is up in years wanting to spend the remaining years of their life in the same home you grew up in. There could be this nagging decision that will eventually rear its proverbial ugly head, and that is this: what to do about your housing during the remaining years of your life. And as important as the decision of where to invest your 401k might be, it sometimes pales in comparison to this one. That's because while the 401k is usually a retiree's most valuable asset, ironically, it is the home that is the saver's most precious asset. Not really sure what it is, but there is something about a home that provides a level of peace and security that money in that 401k just can't buy. And this question of what to do with your home or where to live in retirement at what cost is rarely addressed by a financial world that appears more interested in only giving advice on the things they can make money on. It's really sad. And while I'm not a realtor nor in the mortgage business, I am in the business of trying to help savers figure out the best way to take their money and properly think through the economic issues of housing versus the psychological factors that must be considered when it comes to retirement. Here's the point. The amount of housing options available in today's retirees are endless, and therein lies the dilemma. How does one go about analyzing both these economic aspects of housing and the psychological factors as well? Well, when I return, we are first going to try to understand the true cost of housing in retirement, the options available, the different approaches people might think through, and then we're going to look at an actual case that I worked on recently that, in my opinion, was one of the coolest ideas I came up with to help this couple who found themselves between a rock and a hard place. I'm Tony Walker. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Our Tony in the Trenches question comes from Daryl in Bowling Green, who asks, Tony, I'm getting ready to retire and would like to pay off my home. A buddy of mine at work says he's always heard to never pay your home off, especially with interest rates so low. Your thoughts? Well, Daryl, the first problem with your buddy's advice is the use of the word never. You see, over the past 36 years and personally meeting with over 15,000 savers, one thing I've learned when it comes to personal finance is to avoid what I call the never say never crowd. Friends, neighbors, coworkers, financial advisors, and yes, even the financial entertainers on TV, radio, and the internet who love telling others what to do and throwing out the never word on multiple topics that may or may not be in your best interest. Now, to avoid a lot of confusion in your life, here's my advice. Whenever someone says, never ever pay off your home, or never ever be in debt, or never ever rent, whatever that never ever-ism might be, grab your wallet or purse and get the heck out of there and run as fast as you can. Keep going, run again. Wow, look at her, Ivy. Whee, keep going, one more time. Fast as you can, move those arms. Move those arms. Trust me, folks, when it comes to planning for retirement, there is no such thing as never ever. Retirement and the decisions one might make with their money, and yes, where they choose to live and how much they choose to pay for where they live, is different for different people. We are not all wired alike. We do not always want the same things, nor spend or invest our money the same way. And to assume that we should never ever do such and such is not only faulty advice, but it shows a level of ignorance on the part of the know-it-all advice giver. In other words, there is no one-size-fits-all. Yet what I thought I would do is answer Daryl's question because it is a dandy. Should you go into retirement with a paid-for home or carry debt on it? Now, this depends on whether you are an investor or saver, so let's take the investor. An investor will approach the decision from what I call an economical perspective. They would look at current interest rates, which are currently at all-time lows, and a current stock market, which is at an all-time high. And as an investor, deduce that by using the bank's cheap money, the investor can surely take that money, let's say currently at 3% for a 30-year mortgage, and invest the difference in a growth mutual fund earning 10% like the guy on the radio keeps talking about. Okay, if in fact one could earn 10% on a growth mutual fund, of course, it would make more sense to borrow money from the bank at 3% and invest the difference in the growth mutual fund. I mean, if you could do that, you'd never pay off your home, right? Well, the investor's decision on whether to pay off the home or not is what I refer to as an economical approach to the decision. But let's take a saver, our typical client, and people like me and my wife, Susan. Let's say I shared this same idea with a saver in terms of the investor strategy of taking on a mortgage, paying the bank 3%, and investing the difference in a growth mutual fund. A saver's next question will be, Tony, can you guarantee me that I can borrow this money at 3% and earn 10%? Remember, savers like guarantees much better than they do speculating with money. So if I'm honest, and if the never say never guy on the radio is honest, we must say there is no guarantees that you're going to earn 10% on your money. In fact, you could lose it all and then be stuck with a mortgage through your retirement, to which the saver would probably respond,
"You gotta be kidding."
And this is because a saver's approach to this subject is from a psychological approach, not economical. And since I do have a degree in psychology and wrote a book on this very subject, I can understand why they don't want a mortgage in retirement. In other words, they are not approaching it from economical, but psychological. A saver does not want the obligation nor the uncertainty of having a house payment in retirement. Of course, that's why me and my wife Susan decided to pay off our home. And you know what? It's weird, but we actually feel better about it now that it's paid off. You know, you might say, Tony, couldn't you put that money to better use in your business? Well, yeah, I probably could have, but I'm just saying it's a good feeling to know that we don't have a house payment. So when I return, what I'm going to do is take an actual case I recently worked on and show you how we were able to help someone get out of debt, take care of their family, and also eliminate many of the expenses most people have with housing in retirement. Let me get the whiteboard out. This is an interesting case. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Our Live Well, Die Broke moment actually takes us back several years, going to require a little bit of explanation. This is myself, of course, and this was an AAU team I coached for years. We went by the Hurricane. But anyway, go back in time, and all of the time that was spent coaching these young men, traveling everywhere, spending a lot of money to take care of uniforms, et cetera, it was pretty grueling, quite frankly, and something I did for years. And I guess the point is, if we can go to the next slide, Derek, this kind of happened. One of the teammates showed up at my house the other night. That's my son Anthony, and his name is Joel Iabuniwe. Now, Joel Iabuniwe also goes by the name of Iggy. The reason he took on the name Iggy was back in middle school when my son and him played basketball. Nobody could pronounce Iabuniwe, and everybody called him Iggy for short. Well, at the age of 15, I took on Iggy and pretty much took care of him, did all these weekends, drove him around. You know, we just had a great time playing basketball, and I hadn't seen Iggy in years. He's now a linebacker for the Chicago Bears. And he showed up the other night with Anthony and brought me this autographed jersey and thanked me for the years that I spent kind of taking care of him during those basketball years. And the point being, folks, as we kind of watch some of the stuff here, there's Iggy on the court. You know, you never know when you're serving others or helping people how it's really impacting them. So I'm going to encourage some of you out there. Right now, some of you out there may not feel appreciated, whether it's at work, whether it's for charity or church or even family. Let me encourage you to kind of keep your hand to the plow. You know, don't give up. Keep doing a good work. Take care of people. And not that we should expect accolades in the future, but you never know how you're impacting people and in the work you're doing for them. Just some food for thought. All right, I got to get to this situation before we run out of time. Man, this was a doozy. So when you're working with a retirement planning specialist, folks, you'll know if you're working with a retirement planning specialist if they're talking about things other than investing your money. Folks, everybody wants to talk to you about investing your money and annuities and money management and life insurance. That's how everybody gets paid. But what about those things that can help you in your life and your family and do things that get no reward or payment to that advisor, which this case is? I mean, I don't get any money for this type of work, but I'm using my 36 years of experience and all the people I've met to be able to come up with these ideas, and in this case, pretty quickly, and I think it's going to work out great. Let me set the stage. This was a couple. I'm going to change the names and amounts, et cetera, to protect the innocent. Both of them are 65 years of age. They came into me recently. Both are retired. They had an IRA they wanted me to invest, which we're happy to do that, of $150,000. Their home is worth approximately $300,000. They have debt on that home of $150,000. Okay, two goals. One is to help their son, the son's children, their grandchildren, take care of their kids because the son and the daughter-in-law work full-time. So they're trying to help watch the kids for them, and they want to lower their housing costs. Well, now how in the world are they going to do that? The problem is they're living on Social Security, and this IRA to pay that mortgage is going to be eaten away eventually. There's going to be some issues here. So I asked him, I said, well, what would your son and daughter-in-law think about you moving in with them? And they said, it's funny you mentioned that. They've been talking about that because they enjoy being around us, and quite frankly, they need help with their children. I said, well, what do you think about that? They kind of laughed, and they said, well, maybe, but that's a little too close. And I said, hey, let's think about this. What if we propose to them that we're going to build a wing onto their existing home, and you're going to pay for it, and the deal is, though, once you pay for it, they're going to allow you to stay there rent-free, pay the utilities. In other words, you'll have no more housing costs at all. They're like, how in the world are you going to pull that off, Tony? So here's how we're going to do this. What I propose they do is sell the home, okay? And let's say they net, and let's just stay with this. Obviously, they would pay off the debt, so they would net $150,000. And they're like, okay, what do we do with that? Then what we're going to do, we're going to gift the $150,000 to the son. Now, a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people say, well, I thought you could only give $15,000 a year. That's not accurate at all. You can file a gift tax return and gift all kinds of money. But what we're going to do, the son is going to take that money, and by the way, that's a tax-free gift, okay? Because the house is tax-free, the gift is tax-free, and he's going to build a wing onto that house. Now, what does that do? Well, first of all, the son's house goes up dramatically in value. What a great investment. The second thing that does, it gets that $150,000 out of their estate. So down the road, if they go on a nursing home, that's good news because they don't even have it anymore. And then thirdly, it gives them the place to live so they don't have any expenses. You know, the air conditioner goes out or whatever. They're not going to worry about that now because that's in the son's hands. So what's going to happen here is they're going to pull this off. They're going to do it. They're still going to be able to have their IRA to use and enjoy. They'll still have their Social Security, and they can take care of their son's children, their grandchildren, and everybody's got a win-win situation. So this is the type of stuff that I do, folks. It's not just about managing your money and putting in annuities. Obviously, we can do all that, and we would love to help you with that. But if you're looking for an experienced advisor that has the aptitude and the mental ability to think through this type of stuff and quickly arrive at solutions that can help you, yeah, is this for everybody? Maybe not, but that's not the point. Everybody has different circumstances, and it's my job to use my expertise and experience to help figure out how to help people get what they want at the least amount of cost. So if you're looking at this going, Tony, I didn't even know you could do stuff like this. My advisor just wants to talk about investing more money and put me in more stuff. If you would like to just sit down to go over your entire situation to see how my expertise might be of help to you, why don't you do this? Log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on the Let's Get Started button. There is no cost, obligation whatsoever. We can either talk by phone or if it warrants, I'll be happy to meet with you in person. TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or give us a call on the toll-free number listed on the screen here. Well, what does the Bible have to say about providing for others, taking action, making sure we're doing the right thing with our houses? It says a lot, and the birds of the air and a little birdhouse is going to teach us a lot about how God will take care of us. Let me get a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. One of the most frequent questions I'm asked is this: Tony, when can I retire? It's a great question and one that many advisors are afraid to tackle. Why? I think it's because most advisors do not truly understand retirement planning and how and why a written game plan is the key to being worry-free after you decide to retire. I know this to be true based on all of the daily interviews I conduct with savers who are retired or nearing retirement and simply need help in making sure they can retire worry-free. My personal experience in meeting with over 15,000 savers has allowed me the ability and expertise to quickly determine for that saver if he or she can retire, and if so, when. Sadly, many people who do retire with no written game plan and no full service team of local retirement specialists to assist them do later on begin to worry. We know what you can expect in retirement, and we know how much you should have saved based on your particular needs and goals. Our proprietary software, coupled with a well-trained staff, will give you the confidence you need in deciding to retire and when to begin using and enjoying this money that you've worked so hard to save. We're a little unusual at Tony Walker Financial because besides myself, we offer 3 highly trained service fiduciaries who do not work on a commission basis, but are paid a salary to be there to service what I sell. It's an unusual arrangement, but one I think you'll find to be in your best interest. You'll know that you have competent advice along the way, not only when you retire, but long into retirement. So if you are retired, thinking of retiring, or know of someone who isn't sure about how to go about retiring, why don't you log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number on your screen. We look forward to helping you enjoy a worry-free retirement, and as always, we're happy to meet or talk to you about your situation at no cost or obligation. With the stock market at all-time highs and our nation's debt through the roof, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. Now may be the best time to safeguard more of your 401k. Let's get started today by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. I was taking a look at our little pop-up houses. It's the theme of Tony Walker Financial, putting everything under one roof. These are pretty cool. We got one of the Bowling Green, Louisville office. If you would like a chance to win not only one of these pop-up houses, but also a free signed copy of the book, Live While Die Broke, all you got to do is email Gina at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Gina at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. What we'll do, the first 10 people that email Gina, just say, I would like a free pop-up house and copy of Tony's book. We'll send those to the first 10 people, and we really appreciate it. Oh, speaking of homes, guess what our newest addition is at our home? A gift to us by a good friend, yes, a birdhouse. Now, seeing as though this is our first birdhouse and knowing very little about them, my wife Susan did what all new birdhouse owners should do: Google the internet for some advice. Well, apparently, according to most birdhouse experts, if you're going to have a birdhouse, you're supposed to supply those little fellas with a bird feeder, which we did. And now what's kind of cool about this birdhouse and the bird feeder is watching the birds randomly show up to take advantage of free food and housing. Kind of reminds me of our kids. And as I watch these birds come and go, and as I take time to go down there and replenish their free food, I'm reminded of Jesus' words found in Matthew 6:26, where he says simply, look at the birds of the air. Neither do they sow nor reap nor gather into barns, but your heavenly Father provides for them. It's true, you know, these birds had nothing to do with hanging up that birdhouse.
You didn't build that.
Nor do they have anything to do with keeping birdseed at that bird feeder. No, these birds, who I don't know nor have never met in person, are getting a free house and a free bird feeder. They're relying on me to provide the food and the shelter. They didn't have to ask me, I just did it. Kind of like God does for us. See where Jesus is coming from? But as one Bible scholar once noted about this particular verse, he noted this: the birds still have to work for their food. In other words, birds just don't sit on a branch and wait for God or Tony to climb up the tree and personally place that food into their beaks. If they want to eat, if they want shelter, they're going to have to go out and find it. We see this same lesson play out in the book of Nehemiah, where in chapter 4, the Bible tells us of a bunch of scared people with a hole in their house, but nobody wants to do anything about it. That is, until their newfound leader, Nehemiah, shows up, and in chapter 4, verse 8, we see that the world is against Jerusalem, and the inhabitants are living in fear. So Nehemiah's first action of godly leadership is found in verse 9. He says to pray. But his advice doesn't stop there. Like birds sitting on a branch waiting for someone to feed them, Nehemiah's next instruction is for them to take action by setting up guards where the hole in the wall exists so the enemy can't get in. But that's not all. Knowing that the people still might not know what to do, he does what any godly leader does, and that is found in verse 13, where he says he's going to create a strategy. The strategy? He stations men in the lowest parts of the space behind the wall, the exposed places. The stations and the families stay in those stations with their swords, spears, and bows. Now there's a guy who knows what he's doing. He prays, he motivates others to work, and he gives very simple instruction for protecting their stuff. Which is the point, folks. When confronted with a difficult financial decision, yes, even one that involves what to do about housing and retirement, what do you do? And more importantly, who do you consult? In other words, who can you trust for godly financial advice and leadership? Worse yet, are you like those people in Nehemiah's days who don't really have a problem but don't have a leader either? Someone who truly cares about you, your family, and what you're going to do with your money. Someone who understands both the economic factors as well as the psychological factors. Well, if you don't have somebody like that, I got to ask a question. Why not? Well, my name is Tony Walker, and I'm the owner of Tony Walker Financial, and for more than 36 years, I've made it my life's mission to help savers worry less about money, how best to use and enjoy their money and their families before it's too late. And I'm not just a TV show host doling out financial advice. No, for over 36 years in the financial trenches, I've met in person with over 15,000 savers, and in that time and in all of those meetings, one thing I've learned is that there is no one size fits all. That in order to do what's best for you and your family, you got to avoid the never say never crowd and instead get someone on your side in whom you can lead in the right direction and in whom you can place your trust in. Now, if you don't have somebody like that to call on, let me ask you to do this. Just go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Once there, you're going to click on that Let's Get Started button. That information is confidentially sent to our Bowling Green offices, and you can do one of two things. You and I can have a personal phone call, or if it warrants, I'll be happy to meet with you in either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So take advantage of it. And best of all, it's absolutely free, and you are under no obligation. TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, next week, we've already got a great show planned for you. We're going to talk about this notion of what's in a name. Who are you going to talk to? Who are you going to trust? And once you decide to work with an advisor, what can you expect from that advisor after the sale? Well, I'm Tony Walker. Good stuff coming your way, but you remember between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.